I went fishing yesterday with one single goal: to come home with lunch. I've been fishing in the Boise area now for about 2 months, and the first month of that, I caught almost no fish. I was skunked almost every single time, and it's not because the fish weren't there, and it's definitely not because it was too cold. It's just because I wasn't doing the right stuff. Since then, I've done some learning, and I've changed my methods up, and I'm definitely doing stuff now that would make a purist fly fisherman cringe, I'm sure, but I'm here to eat. I'm trying to come home with lunch. So my goal is to be successful and to be successful quickly. Don't get me wrong, it's super fun to go out and fish, period, but it's cold right now. So while I was successful quickly, I started out with some trouble, mostly because of how cold it is and how much ice I was having to deal with. But I am going to show you the methods that I've been using to successfully catch fish every single time I've gone out, how I prepare them once I get them home, how I cook them, and then of course the eating, how they taste afterwards. It was cold yesterday, like 24 degrees is what my van said. 18 is the coldest that it's been that I've gone out, which is a lot colder sounding than 24, but I've never dealt with the amount of ice on my line and my guides and just getting a frozen reel and just all kinds of trouble with my ice, but I was still pretty successful quickly. Okay, if you notice, I'm using power bait, and I'm also using a Carolina rig. I'm not gonna get into how to tie up a Carolina rig or exactly what a Carolina rig is. That's really easy to look up, and there's a million resources for that. But a Carolina rig has been the most successful thing that I've done for trout fishing. Like, watch how quickly I catch here. Boom, it's not always that fast.
That was quick.
There's definitely a part of me that loves the fact that I'm from North Carolina, I moved to Idaho, and I got skunked fishing so many times, and now I'm finally finding success using something called a Carolina rig. Basically, what we're doing is using power bait here because these fish, and I think most fish, rainbow trout, especially in the Boise area, are stocked fish that Fish and Game put there. They're used to eating marshmallows, fake food. So power bait is something that they will just go for time and time again. Using a Carolina rig means I can float that bait at certain depths in the water because weights will hold the line down, the power bait will float up. So you notice I'm using two different rigs. On a quick day, I will alternate. On a slow day, I'll have them both in at the same time. And what I do there is use two different leader lengths. I've got one here at about 18 inches and the other one maybe a little over 2 feet, just so I can fish two different depths at the same time. It's really important to me to dispatch the fish quickly and then go ahead and process the one that I got before continuing to fish. It feels more respectful to the fish and to the meal that I'm out there to get. That might seem a little silly to you, but come on, I was vegan for forever, so I want to be respectful and appreciative of every single meal that I'm able to get out there. So gutting the fish very quickly, bleeding it out very quickly, also, I think this might be a little debatable, but seems to have a lot to do with the quality of the flesh and the meal. Obviously, eating a fish right out of the water is always going to taste the best, but also not letting that blood sit in the fish and get warm is really important. Now, usually I would have a cooler here with a 2-to-1 mixture of water to ice, like a slurry mixture, because that's also supposed to help the fish flesh have the best quality at the table.
I'm an Eagle Scout. I am literally an Eagle Scout, and I would be so embarrassed if anybody saw me tie that up.
But I don't have that with me here right now because it's really cold and I'm not going to be out here all day trying to get 6 fish. I'm just trying to get 2. So I figured with gutting it really quickly, the air temperature wouldn't get too warm before I'm just coming out. And there's, yeah, a lot of ice in my guide right there, or in my reel. It was a constant problem, which is why you'll kind of see me dipping my line in the water after every cast or so, is because that's what I had to do for the line to be able to move at all. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is this cork that I'm hanging off of my line. It's serving the exact same purpose as a bobber would in the water. When my bait is just sitting there at the bottom, it's not in flowing water, like I found a pocket here that is totally still, I can hang that cork. It's awesome because I'll see if a fish takes my bait and runs, obviously, but I will also see if a fish takes my bait and comes towards me, which is like what just happened there a second ago, how the bobber dropped. I would not have noticed that, and I probably wouldn't have felt that if I wasn't hanging that cork there. What I'm not showing you here is like the 7 casts I had to make dealing with the ice and the knots that got twisted up in my reel and my line. And what I actually got to experience there was 2 casts in a row where I got 2 fish, which is pretty awesome. So I'm just getting this second one processed so I can go ahead and head home. One thing that's pretty interesting about trout is that sometimes you'll catch some that have very white flesh and sometimes you'll catch some that have very pink flesh, and that has to do with what their diet consists of. The ones with the pink flesh are eating much more protein, so insects, bugs, whatever falls in the water, and the ones with the white flesh are eating much more man-made food, so they're probably coming from a stock pond. Sometimes the one with the pink flesh are coming from the stock pond too. They've just been out in the wild longer, but they're all gonna eat that power bait, which is why it's so easy to get fish quickly and successfully on still water with that power bait and the Carolina rig, and just being patient. Hanging that cork there too is awesome because I see the fish almost immediately when they take that line, when they start nibbling it, and I'm able to grab them no matter what direction they run. The first 2 fish I caught in Idaho are native. They were a long scale sucker and a mountain whitefish. And honestly, people look down on suckers, but I just thought it was cool that I caught 2 native fish. It's a little weird that rainbow trout are stocked here, but the more you learn about the business of stocking fish, the easier it is to wrap your head around, and this is still a lot more palatable than going to any grocery store and buying any meat that's on the shelf. But it's still a super high quality, great protein, delicious meal that I can go out and harvest myself. I'm using avocado oil here because it's best to cook trout really hot. The faster you can cook them, the hotter you can cook them, the better, and avocado oil is not going to smoke up like olive oil would. Also, I'm just using salt, pepper, paprika to make that skin nice and pretty when it gets toasty, and some Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. I'm being very liberal with the oil and the seasoning, but pretty conservative with the Slap Your Mama because that stuff goes a long way. All right, after about 4 minutes, start checking the inside. I start checking the inside because I haven't eaten all that much meat in my life, so I gotta be careful about making sure it comes up to temp. Also, you can notice I didn't do the best job flipping these because I broke the tails. But if I wasn't eating these fish, I'd be eating an Impossible Burger or something, so cut me a little bit of slack. It still turned out perfect. Honestly, I think this might have been the best trout that I've cooked. I love cooking them whole like this because, as you can see, you actually get all the meat. It just feels like you're actually getting the most out of this, as opposed to filleting them and skinning them. I'm just looking at this pile sitting on the table like, man, I'm wasting a lot of food, but it doesn't feel like I'm wasting any food here. Now, we have 3 dogs, but only 2 like fish. So I'm gonna leave you with their experience getting to eat the tails.
Sit. Sit. Good girl. You want it, Hank? You never want it. He never wants it. He will never take it. All right, what about you, Milo? Milo, come here. Milo will take it. Come here, buddy. Come on, Milo. Come here. Come here.
Here you go, buddy. Here you go. Here you go. No, this is for Milo. There you go, buddy. There you go. All right, this has been a super fun day.